welcome to In the Studio. I'm your host, Shannon Segall, and today we will be interviewing Mr. Francis Resta. He is a World War II veteran, and we are going to be talking today about the honor flight and his experiences today. So, Mr. Resta, could you please tell us about how you learned about honor flight and what it meant to you to have the opportunity to see the World War II Memorial?
I don't recall really where I first heard about it. I think it was at one of the veterans organizations that I was attending, and I'd heard about it and went on internet. It's easy to find, honorflight.org, and I got an application and filed it.
Okay. And then could you tell us a little bit more about what the honor flight is?
The honor flight is, well, I guess you start with the fact that the World War II monument wasn't finished until 2004, and I was just 80. And I'm one of the younger ones, so most of the veterans were too old to go see it on their own. And so the World War II veterans haven't seen their memorial. A guy named Earl Morris had the idea to fly some veterans whom he was taking care of working for the VA. And he got some airplanes, some light aircraft, some friends of his to fly them, and they flew to Washington from North Carolina. And that started it. Some other people thought it was a great idea, and it eventually grew. To date, they have flown 63,299 flights. Yeah, I'm sorry, those are the number of veterans that they have flown. And it became a national thing. There's chapters in most states. There's several chapters. There's one in Southern California and a separate one in San Diego and one in Northern California. And there's several in Texas, Ohio. Most of the states have a chapter. It's all volunteer. The point is to try and get the World War II veterans to see their monument at no cost to them.
Yeah.
So they pay nothing, and the flight has some doctors and nurses and guardians, they call them. And these guardians are people who volunteer to go and take care of the veterans. Many of them are in wheelchairs. Many of them need oxygen, and these people volunteer at their own cost to go to the memorial with the veterans. I think that answers.
So you went last April, right?
Correct.
Would you mind just telling us what your experience and how far in advance did you have to tell them that you wanted to go, and how long did it take to be on the waiting list?
That's an interesting question, because there are, I understand, 5,000 people in California, veterans, waiting.
Wow.
And they are in a priority. When I first called and signed up, and that was 2 years ago. Yeah. And then I called the next year to find out what happened. And they said, well, we're at those that we have received through 2009, and we'll get to you in a couple of years. So fortunately, it wasn't quite that long. But let me tell you about Stan Wells, one of our Davis people. Okay. He was a Vietnam veteran, flew Century Series fighters in Vietnam. He was shot down, he was wounded, he had lots of history of the war, and incidentally, the honor flight takes anybody who is dying, whether they're World War II or not. It started out to be World War II, and they're still working on World War II waiting list. Yeah. But if you have a doctor's certificate that you are dying, then they will take you. Well, he wanted to go, and I tried to get him on a flight, and he made the decision just a couple of months before he died, and we didn't get it put together. So he never got to see his Vietnam monument.
That's really sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me, I mean, I know there's probably a lot of people on the waiting list still, and there's a lot of World War II veterans dying daily. Do you know what the number is for that?
Yes, there's several. 2 or 3 years ago, the literature that I got, and I'm not sure which site on the web was showing it, but they were talking about 1,200 a day are dying World War II. What I read in more recent was 800 a day, so there aren't many of us left, so the numbers that are dying are reducing also.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I know you were talking to me that when you got on the flight, people met you at in Washington, D.C., and also when you were just getting to the airport. Can you tell me who that was?
Who met us?
Yeah, who met you guys at the airport?
In Washington, basically, I think it was the people that happened to be in the airport, and they must have made an announcement. They all came over and applauded, and they also had some people that had been obviously set up to stand by, including kids who passed out stuff to us, and grade school kids, or most of them I think were elementary school, yeah. And it was quite an emotional thing to have that many people applauding.
So you told me that kids sent you letters, and I know that you brought some here. Would you mind just showing us some of them?
These were letters that kids, they collected them, and actually we received these both at the monument itself, and at the airports, and when we got back to San Francisco. Some of these were from San Francisco kids, and they're letters that these kids had written, and they're very, thank you so much for your service to our great country, and so on. Without men and women like you, we would not be the greatest nation on earth.
Oh, so that's really special.
Oh, yes, and some of them were too young to write, and so they drew
you pictures.
They made pictures.
Aww.
And I will always treasure these.
Aww.
And some of them, it was set up by the school, I guess, and they just added their names. And this was a 6th grade student in Hayward. We've recently studied about World War II and how it changed the world and so on. And this is to one of our heroes. Well, World War II guys don't consider themselves heroes. The guys that died are. And dear sir or madame, that was a very formal letter. Anyway, these were written by the kids, and I will always treasure them.
So you were talking about World War II soldiers don't think of themselves as heroes. Why is that?
Because we weren't. We were doing what we had to do.
But you guys were fighting for our country. I think you guys are heroes.
Well, there were 13 million that were fighting. And the guys who didn't come back are the heroes.
Okay. How long has the honor flight been making flights to DC? Like, how many times do they make the flight to DC?
Well, unfortunately, not very often. There were 2 last year, and I believe there's 1 scheduled this year for Northern California. The flight that I was on was a partial flight. Half the flight were regular customers, and the other half were us and a lot of Guardians. And the flights are scheduled as they have money, and that's the big problem.
Yeah.
They don't, people don't hear about it enough, and you have to be willing to contribute something. It takes about $1,500 per veteran.
Wow.
And I went out and got some donations because I didn't want to feel like I was taking anything. So I got a firm in Woodland to donate 2 seats.
Wow.
And so that took care of me.
So if people in the audience wish to donate, do you have any information about how they would go onto this website?
Yeah, either to donate or, if you know a veteran, to get an application. On that site I mentioned, thehonorflight.org.
Okay.
It'll come up with all sorts of information. You want to try and find the NorCal, Northern California site, and they are up near Redding at Anderson is the name of the town, and they would send an application to you if you want to sign up to go. And they would be very grateful to receive any donation.
Okay, thank you.
And hopefully there will be a lot of veterans organizations have donated, like the AMVETS and the Disabled American Veterans, the DAV, have contributed flight. The flight I was on, AMVETS had paid for most of our seats.
Wow.
And the veterans shouldn't be paying for this.
Yeah, they definitely should not be.
Yeah.
So I know you brought some pictures, right, about your trip to the memorial?
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure. I guess in a few minutes or now we will show you some of these pictures. So would you mind just kind of explaining each of the pictures as they go by?
Well, this one is one of the guardians, was my guardian. She was Kathleen. She had about a dozen of us that she was taking care of, and most of us were ambulatory, so most of the guardians, I think, only had 1 or 2 or 3 veterans if they were in wheelchairs. This was in San Francisco Airport, and they gave us a T-shirt, as I'm wearing a very light yellow one, and the guardians were darker yellow. And I wondered, this is kind of high schoolish to be wearing a T-shirt, but the guys seemed to get lost, so they could keep track of us better. And all of the flights from all of the states wore the same T-shirts. And this one says NorCal, so that was the one that we wore, and like the ones from Ohio had Ohio. But apparently they buy them from the same place because they were all the same color and the same printing.
Huh. And then this picture here, where are you guys?
That was at the monument.
That was at the monument, okay.
Yeah, that was the whole flight of veterans and the guardians. We convened for the photograph.
Oh. And then is there another picture? Okay, and then?
That was at one of the, that was the guardian that I was with at one of the parts of the memorial is really quite huge, and it has a lot of sections that denote the different battles. And for instance, I was basically in the Rhineland campaign from Aachen, Germany to the Rhine River and then across northern Germany. And they had a Rhineland campaign section there, and it had words like these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exciting.
And that was me standing in front of, I think, the same monument.
Same monument? Okay.
And this is, I was standing in front of the, unfortunately they had a fence up there because the water, the fountains weren't working. And so they didn't want us going nearer to the wall than that because the fountains would be spraying and we couldn't get to the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that veterans would want to go touch the wall. And that was a close up. All those stars in the back, there's one star for each 100 veterans that were killed in World War II. Wow. And so there's a lot of stars. And that was coming back to San Francisco when we deplaned. And it doesn't show, there was a contingent of people meeting us at San Francisco as well as Washington.
Yeah.
And that doesn't show it, but there were a lot of people there.
A lot of big crowds.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a big crowd, but it was enough to make us feel very special.
Oh, that's exciting. And then when you went to the memorial, could you tell me like how you felt upon seeing just how big it was or how special it was to you?
Well, my unit, the 102nd Infantry Division, had a bad day on the 30th of November, 44, and trying to take Wells, part of the Siegfried Line. And I wanted to try and figure out which of those stars were my company.
Yeah.
And I got kind of emotional, and I was standing there looking, I guess, pretty emotional, and the Guardian came up and gave me a hug, and that was nice.
Yeah. Would you mind telling us just like a little bit about what you're wearing in your hat and what it means to you? Because I know there's a lot of definitely important things that...
Yeah, it's the 102nd Infantry Division, which is called the Ozark Division. The patch is an O, a Z, and an ARC, or Ozark. It's an Arkansas division. And then I have several of the, I have the Combat Infantry Badge, which only combat veterans get, and so infantry veterans consider that the most important.
Yeah.
And then I have a Purple Heart. I was wounded, a Bronze Star that was for action, and this is I like to confuse people that I have a pair of wings. You know, infantry didn't have wings, but I flew for the Civil Air Patrol for the Air Force for 18 years on search and rescue, and I was a Civil Air Patrol pilot. And this red and black one was the occupation of Germany. And then this is the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And since I'm Italian, I have an Italy and an Army.
Wow. Okay, so you told me that you earned the Purple Heart because you got injured in the war. Would you mind kind of explaining a little bit more about that if you're comfortable?
Well, when you're wounded, you know, it's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I don't know what I could say that would tell anybody anything other than that I was lucky to have had a doctor in the Dutch hospital that I was first taken to in Maastricht, Holland, who was arguing with the Army doctors about amputating my leg. They were going to cut off my left leg because there was so much damage. It had 13 pieces of shrapnel.
Wow.
And he was saying that he could get the shrapnel out, and they were saying that too much was damaged. And as I went under the sodium pentothal, which is what they use for anesthesia there. He was saying, the Dutch doctor I remember was saying, "I'm tired of assisting in bad decisions in my hospital." And so he apparently prevailed, and I didn't have to lose my leg.
So you never got to see this Dutch doctor after?
I have no idea who it was. I didn't think of trying to find until many, many years later.
Yeah.
Most veterans, and I'm no different, combat veterans anyway, don't talk about much of their experiences. And so I didn't think to try and find out who it was until the 1990s.
And you never found who it was? No?
There was no Army record. They had their records, but not the record of the Dutch doctor.
Oh. Could you would you mind just telling us any stories that you found, like how you bonded with your other veterans that were with you?
Well, there's a lot. There's been many books written about the bonding stuff. It's, you know, like if you're building a house, you're a carpenter, and you need something, you yell for wood or nails or hammer or whatever. In combat, nobody is really asking you to do anything. You just see what guys need and you do it. And whether it's going to hurt you or not is irrelevant. When you see what his need is, you do it. And it becomes, you kind of become one person, all of you together, and your thinking is one. And it's that kind of mental networking that goes on that is really the bonding process.
Yeah.
You know that is a part of you, that other guy is a part of you, and you're not going to live if he doesn't, so you've got to protect him.
Yeah. Could you just tell us anything more that you'd like to add about the Honor Flight program that you didn't get to mention before?
No, the basic thing is I need money. There's a lot of World War II veterans that are dying every day, as I mentioned. Whether it's 1,200 or 800, it's an awful lot of them. And that's a national figure, of course. And the only way they're going to get to see their monument is if people donate money,
yeah,
so that they can get there. I think it's very important. It was quite striking to me to see all of the battles in World War II laid out all around the perimeter. And I think that people should reach down in their pockets.
Yeah.
No matter how little you might think you have to give, anything would help.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's all we have time for today, but thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Resta.
Entirely welcome. Thank you for asking.
Thank you very much. And for talking about the Honor Flight. And for any of you, those that are in the audience, please visit the www.honorflight.org and go to donate.com and please help these World War II veterans see the memorial. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.